Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The Steel City. A city shaped by grit and determination. A country built on its steel. It is the center of commerce and industry. The center of manufacturing, banking, medicine, and energy. This city stands proud in western Pennsylvania. It was here that Andrew Carnegie, with billions of worth, said we need to take care of our own. That was 100 years ago. If you look past the tall buildings, beyond the bustling city, and under the many steel bridges that span the Allegheny, Ohio, and Monongahela rivers, you will see something else. Pittsburgh's homeless. This is Camden's journey to look deeper and discover homelessness for himself.
Came down here with a buddy of mine, and we parked our car up, in the ghetto somewhere, and then we walked down. We came across a bunch of homeless people sleeping under a bridge. We kind of froze for a second, and our conversation led to him inviting us kind of back to his spot, and he told us his story, and we ended up kind of just spending the night. I think that really changed our perspective on things. It was a very chilly spring night when we went. I wanted to see what homelessness was all about, and decided that we would go up to one guy and just start talking to him. We had packed a bunch of, like 3 or 4 bags full of crackers and clothing, like food and clothing to give away to the homeless people. But when we got down there, we found out that they pretty much had food and they had clothing. And most of them had dozens of coats and blankets, and they felt very warm, and they were sharing food and stuff like that. So we were kind of curious about all of that stuff, and I think what we ended up finding was that lots of people will donate food and clothing to homeless people, and that's why they have so much of it. But there's this underlying issue of addiction that usually plays some sort of role in a homeless person. And I just really started to unpack that issue, because I feel like in America we're so quick to just hand off food, clothing, or money, but we're not really as quick to try to get to know that person and try to understand their difficulties and try to help them on a personal level instead of on a material level.
One of the things that comes up most often is, people asking questions about how people become homeless, but they typically approach that with some assumptions, which are that people are lazy and don't want to work.
You have time to sit at the end of the bridge or hold a sign or bug somebody, I guess I want to say, with, hey, can you give me some money? Can you give me some money? I think they would have time to go fill out a job application.
I think we're all guilty of to some extent, or not judging somebody who we think may or may not be homeless.
If I can make a 3-hour commute every day and a 3-mile walk every day and expect my 4 kids to go to school, I'm a single mom of 4, you know what I'm saying? And I do what I have to do to support my kids, and I wouldn't expect any less than anybody else. Not from my kids, not from somebody who's homeless.
Today you know the answers. Sure, you know the drugs, maybe the booze, and today you know the unemployment.
I have a job. Get one.
I think they probably had an opportunity, but they wasted it. And now that they're homeless, I hope that they're trying to make better for themselves, but a lot of times I think they're stuck and they can't.
In some ways, I think it's a lifestyle that once it's adopted, it becomes very easy to maintain.
That's why I get angry, because they don't want to get help.
While that can definitely be the case for some people, The issues typically are a lot deeper than simply not wanting to go out and find a job. The most common reasons people become homeless are drug and alcohol addiction or mental health issues or both.
Maybe people do understand that a lot of homeless people on the streets have addictions, and so they don't want to give them money, but somehow we've convinced ourselves that the addiction isn't worth trying to fix or help. It's almost like, well, if they were normal people, if they weren't addicted to something, then we'd help them out. But because they're addicted, we're not going to help them out. And that's completely backwards. If somebody has a problem, then they need help.
I always think there's so many organizations out there to help them, that why are you living under a bridge?
They are pretty severely addicted and pretty severely mentally ill because there are so many programs that are available to help them, but a lot of those programs require a certain level of sobriety. When people give change to a homeless person, I think that it is usually out of a feeling of guilt and not being comfortable with the idea of just walking past someone who is in need.
I've given money to a homeless person before, in some ways, because it's kind of like an easy answer on my part. Like, that's what they're asking for, and so to kind of almost clear my conscience, I'll just give them a couple bucks.
They're a lot more concerned with their image than actually fixing a problem. So if they can make themselves look good or their city look better, they'll do whatever it can. When Pittsburgh had the G4 summit, they actually kicked all of the homeless people out from under the overpass where I stayed, and they shipped them to a different part of town. But they don't really solve the issue by just shipping them elsewhere. They're only worried about their image. They're not worried about actually helping the people.
The best thing about heaven is there'll be no homeless people, because heaven will be perfect. It'll be paradise. My motives for helping them cannot be to lift them out of poverty, because there will always be poverty on this planet, and we cannot eradicate it.
They tend to be somewhat communal in finding people that they trust and kind of sharing an area, and everyone sort of looks out for each other's belongings and for each other's safety. What you see a lot of is a lot of information sharing. Like, this place has great soup on this day of the week, and you go down to this place and this church comes and brings the sandwiches at this time.
Sort of sorry for them, and I always wonder how they get there. What's their story? In fact, there's times I've even bought them food, gave them money just to get a story out of them. And I've actually thought about writing like a tabletop book, taking the picture of the person and actually giving their story, and just,
to help out, because I know if I was in that situation, I would want somebody to help me out. So why not help somebody if you would need help if you're in that position?
There definitely are programs in the community that provide meals. There are also shelter beds available if someone wants to stay somewhere. One thing that you'll find, though, is that staff who work in places like that, regardless of the level of resources, are typically very compassionate people who have a lot of feelings of care toward people who are homeless.
How can I help them out? What can I do to help make their life better? Whether it's a quarter, a penny. I try to give whatever I can.
I think it's much more valuable for both parties if you take time to get to know them and understand their stories and their struggles.
There is so much more that people can do to get involved. And so sometimes it's a matter of taking someone's energy and interest in helping and redirecting them a little bit, and kind of helping them think out of the box a little bit.
It'll open up your eyes really fast. I mean, it's one of the coolest ways to really gain a lot of empathy for people when you go out and volunteer like that.
These people kind of need personal relationships and help and support a lot more than they need food, money, or clothing.
It's not so much giving them a hand out, but giving them a hand up.
It's really just like you or me, where everybody is kind of unique in their own way. We definitely want to stray from grouping homeless people as one person. If you do that, then you're just going to assume that maybe they're all bums or that they're all lazy or whatever. But if you actually try to see them as more of individuals, you'll realize that so-and-so was in a war, and he served our country, or someone else just lost their job, or somebody else might have their PhD, and those are all people that I've come across on the streets. So as far as what they're like, they're just like you and me, but without homes.
Camden has searched. He has discovered. His perspective on homelessness has evolved. Recovery for the homeless starts with an opinion. Does it begin with yours?